So this is it, the end of you and me and everything in between. But their expectations were always bound to bleed out. Your air was endless and you wouldn't let me breathe. With you, you couldn't see this through. Swallow the sky. I'm glad they're peaceful tonight. I see you from my side. But why would I want that? I close the shades behind my back to hide away the sunlight's face. It shows me all the time I've wasted, aimlessly numbing myself. Reaching out to me is hell. There's nothing you could say or do will bring him home. Leave me alone.
This is WKNC 88.1 FM HD1 Raleigh. I am the Loaf, and this is Off the Record, an artist interview podcast / spotlight / whatever it is. I just talk to the local artists. Well, I do personally here at the station. Today in the studio, I have a Condado here to talk about their latest album. Everything I've Done Is Not Enough. First off, how are you guys doing?
We're doing good.
Should probably, my bad.
Yeah.
We just finished playing the Den in Winston-Salem this past weekend. It's kind of just another usual week for us, but it's great to be back out this far into the Raleigh area.
It's nice to not be lugging around instruments.
Yeah,
either. We're just
too.
talking about music.
When's the last time we played Raleigh?
It's probably school kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, last time we played school
us
kids.
too. We played Ruby Deluxe because they were sick. But
Yeah, we did a.
So
barely counts.
first off, before we get more into it, introduce yourselves. What do you play? What's your role in the band? Yada yada yada.
I'm Alberto Velasquez, but everyone calls me Birdie, and I'm the front man. I play guitar and sing.
I'm Josh Reed. I am the lead guitarist, and I sometimes sing.
He yells and cries.
I'm Javon Trinidad. People know me as Jay, but I play bass and I do some singing here and there.
Yeah.
I'm Ananth Singh, and I played drums. and I don't do any singing.
Nice. How long have you guys been making music together? Has it been a while?
If you want to count the very original form of the band, it started in December of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
We announced it on New Year's Day of 2018, and then Anunt joined the band in April or May of 2019.
Okay. How old are you guys?
I'm 25. Josh is 26.
26.
I'm 26 as well.
I'm 29.
Okay. Sick.
Yeah, Grandpa Nut, and I'm Baby Bird, I guess.
Yeah. So y'all have been making music for about 4 years, right? What was your sort of goal, like starting out, like with this band? Was it just like a fun thing? Did y'all just like jam out all the time, and then you're like, okay, let's just actually record stuff? Like what was up? How did this come to be?
Well, I was already making music with people, specifically with Kevin, who used to be in the band, and I was making music with Kevin and his brothers. His brothers, kind of weren't up to the full-fledged commitment at the time, and I needed to find people that were willing to, I guess, put their full attention towards it. And so a year and a half prior to starting the band, I ran into Josh and Javon at a guitar center, and I saw Josh playing some Hozier song on electric guitar, and I was just like, hey, that's pretty cool. And so we kind of sat in the acoustic room and jammed for a little bit, and we exchanged information. But then for that year and a half, it was a bunch of phone tag, just like, yo, you down to jam or something? Yeah, let's do it. And then like one of us would just cancel on the other, and it would just keep on happening. Then eventually I hit him up and I was like, bro, like you and your buddy that was there that day, like y'all are the only people that I can see like making this happen, and like I need musicians that are consistent. When's as soon as we can meet up? And Josh was like, well, I'm helping do music at a church, and I've got keys to the church, so we can go in. It doesn't matter how late. I'm like, let's just do it now. And it was like 1 or 2 in the morning or something.
Nice.
And the 3 of us were there. Kevin was not able to be there that night, but we wrote Army Jacket pretty much like right then and there.
Nice.
And since then, it's kind of been, I mean, we all work day jobs, but it's kind of been a thing where we're making the music that we want to hear, that we really care about, and that we love. And in the meantime, we're willing to kind of deal with working the day jobs and stuff like that to supplement our lives. But eventually, we'd like to go on the road and travel and see everything as a group and do music to
Pay
do
the
it
bills.
and to pay the bills.
Pay the bills, like-
Not to be rich,
Mhm.
but just to do what we love full time.
Nice. So a little bit about the name. Condado means community in Spanish, correct?
It means county.
County
actually.
in Spanish. Okay.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to name your band County?
So I had the band name in my head because 2 of the members, Kevin and I, we're from Randolph County, and there's not really a whole lot going on there. It's a really rural place, and there's this constant cliche in like pop punk and emo music where it's like, I want to leave my hometown with my friends, and I'm just like, bro, like just like accept the fact that you're from where you're from, and like make it happen regardless of any like kind of adversity you might face from like a lack of a scene or lack of diversity or something. So for me, it's just kind of like a constant reminder to like that like we come from a certain place, and we're gonna make it happen regardless of where we're from. We're not,
Okay.
We're not gonna let the fact that we're not in a city that's like popping with like a lot of like small artist support stop us from anything. And so yeah, that's where the name came around.
Okay. I like that message where it seems like it's very much just sort of like just sort of like breaking through, just no matter what, no matter the like adversities or the problems, and just sort of making it your own. Is that is that the sort of like goal of the band, like for you guys? Is that how all of you see it? Just sort of just like it's very much just doing your own thing, and then just like being there and being loud, and just like is that what it's all about?
The DIY aesthetic is really important
Yeah.
to us, especially that we put out the new record and it sounds the way it sounds, and we still did it all ourselves.
Okay.
Writing, recording, producing, mixing, mastering, promo, all of it is still us. And so it's kind of like For me, it's like I don't really know how to do it any other way because we've done it this way for so long.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. You know, like even as long as it took, you know, because those who have been to our shows and stuff, you know, it's always, you know, hey, we'll have merch soon, or
We've been working on this album. Now I'm like, we have an album. Like, thank goodness. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely. I think it's just always been about, you know, pulling from our influences, but still putting out music that we like and that we want to hear out in the world, but also that's very attainable and accessible by all music tastes. Like, you know, we find ourselves playing shows, and, you know, we got people that look like us out there saying, like, yo, like, I really love this kind of music, and I kind of got made fun of growing up for listening to it because everyone thinks I'd be listening to, like, hip-hop or, like, Latin music or whatever the case may be. And they're like, it's really cool to see that people like y'all are doing this and being original and, you know, doing what y'all want to do regardless of what anybody says. So that's definitely the motto for sure. Nice.
It's always great to have more voices in like a music scene and just like, in general, like different like origins and backgrounds. So speaking of your new album, it just came out November 5th. At the beginning, we did play two songs from it, Army Jacket and A Lighter Will Burn a Bridge Fine. So speaking about your new album, Everything I've Done Is Not Enough. It is a re-record, remix, and remaster of both your EPs and 2019 singles. How did that come to be? Why did you want to do this? It seems like it's a very dramatic shift in your sound from compared to when you first released stuff.
I think that whenever we decided to record the first EP, we had already been a band for 6 months, and people were like, when are you going to put out music? And I kept on telling the other three, like, we are doing this completely by ourselves, or self-funded at least, because we did do it at a studio, but first impression is very important. I don't want us going out there and looking amateurish and stuff like that, because I think a lot of DIY is very accepting of music of all skill levels and musicians of all skill levels, and that's fine. But, you know, I really wanted to make it a point that we were super serious about it and that we had lasting power and, you know, wanted to do this for real eventually. And so that first EP was recorded live, no click, all in the same room, just throw the mics up, and, you know, we paid for as much mixing as we could afford, which was not a whole lot of in-depth mixing. And the first EP came out. I think people to this day say it's kind of like charming in the sense that it's kind of dry sounding and not a whole lot's going on. And I do agree with that. But ever since the personnel change, whenever Anant joined the band itself sounds very different. And Anant was there for the writing process for the EP Sable. And that was recorded at home, but that was also recorded at home before we really knew what we were doing. That was before I started pursuing a audio engineering degree, and that was before Anant really started to teach himself a lot of stuff regarding recording and mixing and things like that. And so we just kind of got tired with showing somebody our music with the phrase, you know, this is our stuff. We sound different now, but like this is what's out. Like, it's the corniest thing you could ever say. And so we wanted something that was more representative of what we sound like and who we are, especially moving forward with more out-of-state gigs being more frequent, I guess. You know, we want the first impression for people that have never heard of us to be what they heard that night whenever they came to the rock show. So the rock show, but,
the local show.
I don't know if y'all want to add anything regarding the importance of why we decided to re-record everything.
No, I mean, like that. Yeah, that pretty much nails it, because like us as people who hear this music like on a regular, you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes it just hurt to play a show. And then to drive home and then listen back to, one, how you played it, and then two, to what people are actually hearing.
Yeah.
Is just so important. So.
Okay.
Yeah, the fact that I can put on the new record and then listen to like Microwave's Much Love right after that and think, okay, I'm proud of what we did. Like, I'm proud of the way this sounds. Finally.
Competitive
You know,
fidelity.
yeah.
Like, it feels like it belongs in a professional music space now.
Yeah.
It's competitively loud. It's competitively HD. Not that the original recordings were bad in any kind of way. It's just, this is much more of a polished kind of more commercially viable sound, which, moving forward I think is kind of important.
Nice. So how long have you all been working on this album? Has it always been in that process where like you felt bad about like what you're performing versus what is heard like recorded, and like has it always just been in the wheelhouse and you just finally just got it out, or like what's up with it?
With it being very DIY, it took like the oldest tracks on this record. The date is probably 2020. Like some of the drums are super old. And like it just happened in piecemeal, and then really in the last like 6, 7, 8 months we decided to, okay, let's make this a project, make this a priority. And even then it was like we would go like a week or two without recording anything just because of people's schedules or stuff, like people having kids.
Yeah. Everybody has a life. Yeah.
But it took a while, but I think that's also like, that's a luxury of the DIY thing, and it's also you have to motivate yourself to get it done.
Okay.
You know?
It, like you said, it did take a while, but I think looking back on it now, I was telling Javon the other day that I'm glad that it took as long as it did, because throughout the recording process, there would be times where I would listen to what we had already recorded like last year. And I'd be like, I don't even play that like that anymore.
Yeah.
I need to go back and redo that. So
Okay.
I'm glad that, like, yes, it took this long. Yes, we kept telling people, it's coming, just be patient. But, like, it's so worth it now that people are, like, hitting all of us up individually and just being like, I like this part and I like this part. And
Yeah.
you guys did really good with all of it as a whole, or just, like, this section really stuck out to me this time after listening to it. And it's like, that makes it worth it to me, no matter how long it took. We were talking to somebody, I think it was last night, and they were telling me their project took 4 years.
Oh,
I mean, that's different circumstances, but that's still 4 years. So, like, a year to us, we were, like, really, really trying to hunker down and get it done. But, like, I'm glad that it took a year. It's definitely worth it. Definitely worth it.
Nice. So is it very safe to say that this album is very much a growth of you guys over the years, and just sort of just like all just like having fun, just like coming together and just like doing it all?
Absolutely. It feels like a fresh start, and just like when I put the record on, I'm like, this is my band. This is what we sound like any given day of the week if we're playing a show. It's just the most accurate representation of who we are, what we sound like, what we like, our influences, everything. It's up to date, it's current, and it's really, really relieving.
Nice. So first I want to talk about Army Jacket, which was played before the interview, before we started talking all that jazz. How do you feel about remaking that sort of old song, that one of your first songs like ever that you demoed in 2018? What was the process? Was it very difficult? Do you have like a lot of emotional attachments to it? Like were you excited to re-record that, remix it? Like, what was it like?
I think the most difficult part was getting the guitar tone right, because whenever the first EP comes on, the jangly kind of really bright and hoopy sounding guitar is kind of the real priority for me, because it just kind of like makes your ear kind of perk up whenever you hear it, because it just doesn't sound like heavy, angry guitar. It just sounds kind of sparkly. And so with how we play now and how the tone shifted for Sable, it's kind of hard for me specifically to get that sound out of my guitar nowadays, unless I really kind of dial everything in. So we made it a point to try to use the equipment that would complement that sound the most. So that song is actually all processing, like a guitar processor instead of amps for the guitars and the bass. It's the only song on the record that every instrument is running through that. So We just wanted to
Okay.
use some other flavors of amplification instead of what we normally use live to get that sound. But aside from that, it was mainly get it sounding kind of punchier and heavier, which happens naturally with the way an unt plays drums, but also kind of still maintaining the groove and kind of lightheartedness of the song, And I think we were able to do that fairly easily because that song kind of evolved as the band did.
Okay. So the drums are a big leading factor in like all these songs, because it seems to be mentioned a lot that like you're playing really sort of, it seems like the core and the base of this album and its sound. Like how do you feel about that, and is that true do you think everybody else feels about that? How does everybody else feel about that?
So I would say yes, in the sense that we had to capture what it feels like to see us live on a recording, and now we have that.
Okay.
Have that in the highest fidelity possible, because we did that with Sable, but Sable doesn't sound that great in hindsight. But we've done it now. The way I play, I'm very like meat and potatoes, loud, metronomic. Like I don't do anything fancy.
Yeah.
Before I was in the band, Javon played drums, and Kevin played drums on some songs.
Yeah.
And they're very like, it's a little bit more like agile, like a lighter touch. They can play like fancier stuff than I can. But it feels way different. What they told me, I remember when I first came in audition, it feels way different. It feels way more like grounded, especially with the way Javon and I handle the bass and drums. Like there's a really good foundation, and we exhibit that live. So yeah, it's hugely important. It was hugely important to me, to make sure the drums, like, people feel them and they feel the groove and they feel like, it sounds a little bit more commercial than standard like Midwest emo stuff.
Yeah.
So the band got a little bit heavier. We turned up, like, we quote unquote turned the overdrive up
Yeah.
a little bit. It sounds a little bit more
Put on the
exciting.
rap pedal,
It sounds
yeah.
a little bit more exciting. It's a little bit more exciting in general. So yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Rat pedal. Literally, yeah. I've got a vintage rat pedal that's on my board. And
I did see that during your live show at School Kids. I like saw that rap pedal. I was like, dude, I love that. I love that so much. That's in my own setup. So rap pedal and everything. So I guess I would describe your earlier EPs as sort of Midwesty emo type of scenario where it's like very twinkly, I guess. And that's also what Maddie, my general manager at the station, also described it as. I like mentioned, Condado, I'm gonna interview them. Like, aren't they like very like twinkly and like Midwest emo? And I was like, yeah, they are, but this new album rocks. So I guess this goes on to the point where transitioning to like a lighter will burn a bridge fine. I think it's kind of like that and Army Jack are kind of seem like the most like twinkly sort of like Midwesty emo. It like sort of like inspiration, well, not inspiration, but like keeping it that. And also I remember you saying like in that School Kids show that title and that sort of song is like the most emo sounding thingy that you have. So was that a song that consciously you're like that and Army Jack was like, okay, we want to sort of still keep this identity a little bit during the beginning of the record, or was it more just like, or am I reading it completely wrong? Like,
No, I think that those songs, whenever they were written, those were probably some of the biggest influences at the time. I
Yeah.
would say that personally, my biggest influences, instead of being the Midwest twinkly stuff, is more of the riffy kind of Philly emo stuff, like Modern Baseball and everyone that is on Lamo Records and those kinds of bands. Also Thin Lips, Cayetana, Warriors, all those. That kind of music is really what resonated with me. But I think that inherently, whenever we were writing a song that sounds as emotional and kind of nostalgic as it does, you kind of lean towards a guitar tone that sounds a little cozier and a little bit more kind of like big question mark floating over you instead of just really authoritative, very heavy and distinguished kind of distorted guitar. I just don't think it fits as well as, you know, a very mellow kind of soft touch in that case. So I think the songs just naturally sound more like that. It wasn't exactly at the forefront of my mind, but definitely something that I think was somewhat preserved on the new recordings.
Okay.
But everything, like Anant said earlier, is kind of just turned up a little bit. I don't know.
They were also written closer to each other, like in the time frame of us, you know, being a group. So
within like weeks from each other.
Within
Yeah.
like weeks. So like through the whole album, like you can still kind of like tell how like we're still evolving our sound, and it's really still at this point not stopping. Like the album is just a capture of like the whole beginning chapter of our story of like how our sound started and where it is currently sitting. Like I don't ever see myself being comfortable like ever, even at shows and stuff, with like the tones that I'm getting at all. So like I'm always in a constant change with, you know, this and that. So like those two songs being so close to each other, like within the writing process of it, like I feel like it keeps a really rooted, natural kind of same sound as it is in itself.
And we also made it a point to put the songs on this record in chronological order.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could have decided a track list that was a little bit more, I guess, dynamic or appropriate for how the songs themselves sound, but we just made it a point to release it in chronological order because we wanted people to hear the songs and how they've changed over the years, but all at once and all sounding very consistent. Yeah. So that was another thing that we wanted to focus on.
Nice. I loved. I don't know. The first thing I guess you were talking about, like comfy and punchy, sounds like it's like a really like good way to describe your tone, which also you were which you were describing too. I don't know. It's just like it's just very sort of like warm, but it's like still like in your face sort of a little bit. Yeah. So I don't know.
I think the key to that sound to me is the mid-range. A lot of people like to scoop it out in order for the detail and the kind of woodier frequencies of the guitar to stick out, but I just want it to be kind of brash and kind of boxy and honky sounding because that's what's going to just cut through everything and hit your ear first as opposed to something that's kind of hollow in the middle, you know. So we use amplifiers made by a builder in Durham. His name is Chris Rossi. His company's called Dusky Electronics, and we use his amplifiers, which have a very distinct kind of harmonically rich, very, very dense mid-range to them. So they just have this kind of really pleasant, like vintage kind of squawk. And so if we're playing on single coil pickups, it'll do the jangly thing. If we're playing with humbuckers or with more distortion, it'll do the really gutsy kind of distorted thing. And just
nice.
I think that too many people out there are scooping their mids, and it makes me sad.
I love duality in my music, especially it seems like you guys, at least that's what I enjoy about it, is that duality of just sort of all these tones and these inspirations. It's great. All right, well, now that we obviously talked a little bit about the new album and the sort of the songs in it, I'm put on two more songs from them from that album. These Mountain Families Sure Know How to Make Money and Beer Goggles. Hope y'all enjoy.
I've already soothed the burns from the radiation coming from the rage you felt when I wished you well and said I don't want complications. I didn't mean it in a bad way. I just figured that I'd always be honest. You said to be honest, I'm always honest. But now I know you never are. Usually it's all laid out, but you look so blue. Someone has got it made. Someone has got it made. Totally got it made. Totally got it I've been waiting so long for something to catch my attention. All I had started and ended fast. I'm so sick of temporary, but if I'm with where you led me, time moves on. Took my efforts as never trying. I wanted amends, now there's no denying. I want you gone. This road never ends. Ended up right where I began. Took a second chance. Fixing things became my plan, but things change in the blink of an eye. When you fall for a person who'll be right side. Things change in the blink of an eye. When you fall for a person who'll be right side. Conflicts are never ending. I felt you were so condescending. You always said I never gave my best. I never was good at choosing among all the games that I'm losing. I've already lost to you. Hide behind my face. My mind's the loudest quiet place. I just wanna taste before I let it go to waste. 'Cause things change in the blink of an eye. When you fall for a person without sunrise. Things change in the blink of an eye. When you fall for a person without sunrise.
All right, and we're back. These Mountain families sure know how to make money. It seems like it's a very involved song. It seems like there's a lot of like moving parts, a lot of just like sounds in it. How do you feel about well, not how you feel about it. How do you like it now that you've sort of re-recorded it and remixed it and everything?
I think that the part that I like the most is the fact that the heavy hitting sections hit harder, and I think that I'm very proud of the way we recorded it and the way that we mixed it, because even though I have like a slightly different voice now, I feel when I sing, I was very content with the way that the harmonies and like the ending of the song sounded on the original recording. So it was definitely a point of mine to make sure that we made things sound just as full and very choir-esque towards the end of the song. I wanted to preserve that element of the old recording for sure. And I think that the new version just like the other stuff, just has this weight and this punch and this steadiness that just feels good and kind of brings a little bit of anger to the track, a little bit of, just like in your face. And it's just very, very important for that to be felt for that song especially, I think.
Did you do like a lot of like, because your singing seems a lot better in this album. Did you do a lot of vocal training, or is it just like you just got more comfortable with it all?
I think that my voice and the journey that I've had with my voice has kind of been a lot of ups and downs throughout my life. I did a lot of musical theater and choir in high school.
Nice.
And I had constant training there, and I think that's the best my voice ever sounded. Shortly after high school, I just had a lot of upper respiratory issues all the time, and I was very stuffy, and I didn't know how to project and stuff like that. I've broken a lot of, or damaged a lot of like cartilage and stuff in my nose, so like, I just kind of, I have a very deviated septum. Like I can't breathe. I suck at breathing. So it's not the greatest thing, not the greatest problem to have if you're trying to sing. But I feel like nowadays, just really focusing on what my body is doing when I'm singing, and also the monitoring environment. I do kind of what the singer from Metallica does, where instead of headphones on, I've got a little speaker in the room, in the booth, and so I feel like I'm singing with the track instead of like hearing a duplicate of my voice in some headphones. I feel like I'm just singing in the room, and that feels a lot more natural to me. So we did a lot of recording that way on the record, and that also helped. And I think live, just in general, running earplugs so I can kind of hear my own voice in my head definitely helps. I'm still not the best singer by any means. Sometimes I get really self-conscious about it, but I do think that the singing is a little bit more of a step up. And also there's a beautiful plugin called Melodyne, which cleans up some of the ugly notes here and there. But obviously I don't I don't sound like T-Pain. So shout out T-Pain. He's got the same birthday as me.
Just a very quick note, like everybody on any track, unless they make it a point to say they didn't use it, everyone uses pitch correction.
Oh, okay.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Like it's industry standard for a reason.
And pitch correction, I think is, it's definitely widely used, but it's also not a substitute for a good delivery. I think you can still deliver something very emotionless and very underwhelmingly, and auto-tune or pitch correction is not going to fix that. So, I definitely made it a point to rip it on these tracks as best I could.
It doesn't seem like you use any type of auto-tune or pitch correction at all. At least I listen to it. It's very much. It seems like you guys aren't using like much of it, but it's still there, right?
Yeah. So
it's there, but like the performance is number one.
Yeah.
But number two is like sometimes you need just that little bit of, especially when we're doing like stacked harmonies or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Everything just fits a little bit better. But like that's the best compliment to me. If you use pitch correction and people don't recognize it, they say, "Oh, no, you don't." No. I'm like, then that means we did it right.
And there's also some spots where I'd be butting heads with it, and I'm like, I don't like the way that note came out. Like, please tune it. And it's just like, no, like it's a human performance. It's meant to have little imperfections and things like that. So if it's not blatantly horrible or like just like a whole semitone away from where I was supposed to sing, then we just might keep it. So it's definitely not like every word on the album was tuned, but just spots that needed it.
Specific stuff. That was, by the way, that's another reason the album took a while. Yeah. Because we went through all these iterations of like, let's record the guitars this way. And then Josh was not happy with his tone, or we couldn't get it right or whatever. So he went, for all the songs that were on EP1, he went through the processor. And then the first big hurdle that I remember was Bertie not being happy with his voice. Like, and it was just like, it wasn't bad, but he was trying to sing with headphones, and I was like, we just trying different stuff, and I was like, you know what? I feel like you were used to hearing your voice as it is in a room with no head, like as it comes out of your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So let's try putting a monitor in the room. And it was like a switch flip, and it was like he was hitting everything as he usually do. He does, like live.
Yeah.
And we really kind of like made it a point, like through the recording from that point on, like vocally, was this is like strictly things that we can do live. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like we try to, in Pansy we did add, some cool little vocal flair things in comparison to the old recording.
Like
But
more
like-
harmonies
yeah,
and stuff.
like
Yeah.
harmony things. But like we didn't want to get too out of pocket to where it sounded like there was
Super
there was a
overproduced.
piano voice
Yeah,
behind.
yeah,
all
yeah.
Right,
of
yeah,
us.
like
Yeah.
we
Okay.
do make it a point that everything that's on the record is, we're not missing too many components when we play live. We want to be able to
Okay.
replicate it live.
Okay. So it's not too overproduced. It's not too sort of like overvalued or like too, I guess, commercial. It still sounds very commercial and very professional, but your ultimate goal is always to make it so that it sounds live, the same live as it is like in recording.
Right, which A Lighter Will Burn a Bridge Fine. Funny story about that song. We tried recording it to a click, and even though that song has kind of tempo switches and stuff, but we realized that although we nailed it, it sounded really like sterile and like lifeless because it was locked to a grid. So we actually
okay.
recorded the drums and bass at the same time live for that song. So that song is completely free, unlike the other ones that were recorded to a metronome. Lighter was actually recorded live because that song
Okay.
needed it the most.
Nice. It seems like your guys' process is a very big part of your music, and that's awesome because, like, I mean, what seems like it's a long process, but it seems it was definitely worth it. So beer goggles. First I heard this was obviously during the live show. Well, first time I heard you guys was during the live show. And I think I don't know. I remember you guys saying that it's like a SpongeBob reference or something at one point.
Oh no, that's actually a
Or is
different
that- or is
song
that a
called
different
Bold
one?
and Brash.
Bold
Yeah,
A Bold and Brash.
Yeah,
okay.
that'll be coming
Okay.
on the next record.
Okay,
but,
okay.
there's a SpongeBob episode, where he's like, I call this one Bold and Brash, and more like belongs in the trash. But Beer Goggles is a song that the whole thing that made it different back in the day. And back in the day, in the old lineup of the band, there was a lot of instrument rotation. I had originally, or Javon presented the guitar riff for that song, and I had written the drum part. And so that song was definitely a standout moment. And it was actually going to go on EP1, but there was actually an emergency with our old bandmate where his brothers were in a car accident while we were, in the studio, like recording and everything. And so there was a little bit of a very understandable loss of focus, and we just didn't continue with that song just because we were having difficulties recording it in that very moment. But definitely kind of a heavier song, and Javon has a huge hand in the way it sounds and how it was written, and it's been through quite a few different iterations. There's been the original one that was recorded at the Haywood House in Greensboro, and then there was Beer Goggles 2, which was recorded at home, and then this is Beer Goggles 3, which sounds a lot like Beer Goggles 2.
Yeah, they're the same drums.
Same drums. But we just made it, even more representative of what it sounds like today. So.
Nice. Beer Goggles was a song. It is a song where you're talking about love and sort of like through sober eyes, and it's different through sober eyes and sort of drunk eyes, right?
Yeah.
What is that about? Did that come from like an actual experience, like an actual like relationship, or it's just kind of just like whatever?
So yeah, I mean, typically as it is I speak from actual experience in that, growing up as a kid, trying to do whatever I want to do, respectively. So everybody goes through their own kind of, paths in life, and
Mm-hmm.
mine at that time frame was drinking away and not really doing anything productive with myself.
Yeah.
And it sort of kind of talks about how the drinking away and not using yourself to your full abilities can bleed into the simple things like relationships in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas that is somebody who is probably could be better for you in a different situation. You just refuse to put yourself in that spot because you refuse to let go of like little habits such as like drinking and things like that. So
Yeah.
it's, just a song about the importance of anybody can have a beer. Anybody can have a shot. It is
Yeah,
what it is, dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a part of this world. But you gotta keep it to a level to where you don't let it control outside of whatever it is you do, because it can ruin other people around you, and
Okay.
in like just a quick second.
Okay.
So that's what pretty much the whole writing scheme is about, is just how I was uncareful with pretty much the situation that I was in with alcohol.
Awesome. That's a great journey.
Yeah,
with
really
that
is.
song. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah. So moving on to Haywood. Haywood is you mentioned it previously. It's where you recorded a lot of stuff, right? At Haywood.
Yeah, so Haywood refers to Haywood Street, which is kind of near UNCG's campus, and my old bandmate Kevin was friends with these two guys named Daniel and Larry, and Daniel and Larry were studying at UNCG at the time, and they were percussion performance majors, so they were very, very, very talented musicians, and Kevin was roommates with them, and so we now had a new place to rehearse, and we would go over to the house, and what was supposed to be kind of like a room that connected the kitchen and the living room that was originally, I guess, intended to be a dining room ended up being a music room with a ton of instruments and stuff.
Nice.
Hence the first lyrics of the song. But Haywood was a spot where we would go hang out, where we'd go write music, where we'd record our stuff, where we would meet up before shows, rehearse, all that stuff. And whenever Kevin ended up moving away, Josh needed a place to stay, so he moved in. And so through both lineups and phases of the band, we were at that house very often.
My first audition, I auditioned at Haywood.
Yeah.
And I learned 7. The only thing that was out at that point was the EP 1 and the 3 singles. And I learned them all. Yeah, so that even in the later stages of us being involved with that house, like, it means a lot to all of us, and I'm saying even myself, even though I was there a limited amount of time, like, it was just like the vibe. It was like,
it was a pivotal
it was
point.
it was kind of like this touchstone. It was like crusty, and like walking in there, it'd be like, I don't know who, like, there'd be like random people in there just hanging out, friends, playing Smash Brothers,
Nice,
playing whatever it was, like Splatoon or some shit.
Yeah.
Larry and Daniel both, like Birdie was saying, they
goofy.
Very goofy, but they were musicians as well. So it was like at any given moment there was somebody playing something in the house. And then when Kevin moved out and I had moved in, Birdie was like, "You're gonna have to learn all those lead lines, and you're gonna have to start writing lead lines and stuff like that." And I was like, "I'm not a lead guitarist, bro. I don't do that.
Yeah, because the way the old format of the band was, the usual rotation was between Josh and Kevin. They would flip-flop back and forth depending on the song between lead guitar and bass.
Mm-hmm.
And Javon was on drums. And then on the newer stuff that ended up becoming Sable, Javon was writing bass parts anyway. So that's kind of how that worked. But
and so like during that, like just talking about how like pivotal Haywood was, like for a nut, he was only there for a brief period of time, but it got him in with us. And then for me, that house, like, it was just inspiring to come home from work and like Larry and Daniel would either be practicing or studying or doing something. Like, okay, so I need to do something myself.
Yeah.
So I would just lock myself in my room for a couple hours and be like, I gotta learn something. I gotta come up with something.
Nice.
So, like, the more I did that, the better I got at playing and getting more confident with the way that I play. And I don't know, yeah. Haywood was just, it was all just because of being in that house, just being motivated by what was going on in there, even if it was some goofy moments and whatnot.
It really facilitated the thing that like you hear a bunch of like old heads or older people, older musicians talk about how you gotta like get in a room together and play.
Mm-hmm.
That was where it started. Like you need a space to come together, and you need a space to play with each other and play off each other and write stuff off the cuff. That's really important, especially if you're like in a rock band, in this genre.
Yeah.
That's what it was for us, because that room was so tiny. It's like the size of this room.
Yeah,
It's
like really, it is
Nice.
exactly. And we had a whole drum set and all the amps and everything.
Yeah, it was so small.
WKNC
It got
production
so
room, yeah.
hot. But like that's how you cut your teeth.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
and that's especially why I wrote the first chorus the way I did, because I wanted to capture what was going on at any given moment. At one point, Larry and Daniel were playing Smash Brothers, and someone beat the other person, and they just started kind of like slapping at each other, making funny noises, which resulted in one chasing the other down the street. Whoever our girlfriends or partners were at the time, they would be, on the couch just like waiting for us to get done with rehearsal, knocked out regardless of how
People would be
blaring loud
sleeping.
it was.
Be sleeping
Literally
while we were
sleeping
playing,
during
and then
the
it was
verse.
like 100 decibels in the next room.
Right. and we would just grind songs out until, they were what they needed to be. So
Nice.
Shout out to the neighbors also.
The neighbors that deal with it.
hence the second
Which
chorus.
we also reference in the song.
yeah,
Yeah.
the neighbors never complained about anything.
Yeah. Are y'all still visiting Haywood, or is it just sort of still in the past now?
So
Somebody else got
Daniel and Larry moved out, and a family moved in. And
Okay.
I do not know the family, but Javon took a picture of the house anyway for the original album
Hold
art.
on. I have to say, they informed me that there was no longer homies living in that house, and I had to go by to take a picture for the album. So it felt so weird having to go by and be like, "Hey, this is this house."
That's how people gotta feel at the American football house. They're like, "Oh look," and they're like, "Please leave," or whatever. I don't know who lives there, but But the new album art for the single that was released before the record came out, that was a picture actually from the day of the first show we ever played, which was actually here in Raleigh.
Oh,
At
nice.
this place called the Radio Shack, which is someone's living room. And the picture is
Gotta
me
love house
reaching for
shows.
the camera because
Yeah.
Larry was holding the shutter button on my iPhone for 64 pictures and would not give me the phone back. So that's me attempting to get the phone back from Larry, who is a menace, but I love him.
Nice.
Something that I think, just talking about wrapping up, talking about Haywood.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the
You say right now.
it's the first song to me that was completely written from scratch with this lineup. Because Birdie had written Sable, a lot of the riffs and stuff, before I joined. He was like, "Hey, I got these songs. They're kind of not finished, but here's some starting points, and here's the ideas." Like Sable is like, it's super homogenous. Like it sounds like the perfect collection of these 6 songs that all go together. We finished it up,
Mhm.
but we didn't. There was no like genesis, like from beginning to end with this new lineup. Haywood is the first song.
Yeah.
Nice.
That is that. Because I remember Josh coming up with the riff.
I don't remember the exact conversation, but I do remember like we were sitting around and y'all had said, I like the way we were talking about some song and we were just talking about what we liked about it. And I was like, man, I'm gonna go home and write something like that. I think I just went home that night and I was like, hey, what does this sound like to y'all? And Birdie was like, that's it. That's the one. We're just going to run with that. We're going to come up with some more stuff. Next time we meet up, we'll finish it.
Nice.
And it was that easy. And I think songwriting with this lineup now, it's still that easy. Yeah, it's cool.
Nice.
It hasn't been like a pulling tooth and nail trying to like figure out what fits. We'll bring something to the table and then the other 3 will be like, okay, well this fits here and I have this idea from such and such. Let's just pull that from here and put that here, and then it just comes together and it's just
When it comes to songwriting, I'm a firm believer that writer's block might be a thing if you're always going for a big picture project and starting and finishing something in one sit down, but every day I'm writing something, whether it be just like a one-liner, like a lyric, or like a little riff, or like I'm singing a melody or something. And because we're all so consistent in our song ideas, we can kind of pull from different sources and different jot down moments and kind of throw it all together into this song Pizza, and it works. So,
Nice.
It's really interesting. In the scope of the whole record, the whole thing's from Army Jacket to Haywood was written with like different people writing different parts, different members who aren't in the band anymore. But it's kind of seen through the lens of the four of us now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, this is ground zero. Okay, we're starting here.
Yeah.
Next
Starting
record
over.
is going to be entirely written with this lineup, like from scratch, and we've already basically got it written.
Yeah, it's
like,
pretty much written instrumentally. We've been sitting on probably 11 to 13 songs since the beginning of the pandemic.
Dope.
Did you just sneak peek the ideas?
Yeah.
Wah.
That's awesome. I am very excited for that. This new album rocks, and it's just great.
Thank you.
All right. Do you want to say something? Oh yeah. So
You
all
want to
right.
do your whole like search bar? If you have a search bar.
He'll be saying that it shows if you got social media, then you know that there's a search bar, and I'm like, bruh.
All right. Well, before we go, where can people find you and your music and stuff?
So yeah, we have social medias, Facebooks, Instagrams,
Twitter we never use except
yeah.
for forwarding the Instagram posts to the Twitter.
Yeah. They're all the same. It is Condado NC. That's CONDADONC. If you see somebody with an afro, then that's me. So it's the right page. On YouTube,
With a
you
sick
might
afro.
run into I think a Hispanic rapper, but we're also there.
Yeah, shout out DistroKid for confusing us with a rapper from Puerto Rico. But I've actually spoken to him, and he likes our music.
Sick. All right. Well, thank you all again for coming in and talk about your new music and all about you guys. It was great having you all here.
Thank you so much
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
All right. I will leave you guys off, or at least the listeners off, with Beer Goggles and Haywood. Thank you all for listening to Off the Record here at WKNC 88.1 FM HD1 Raleigh. Y'all have a good day.
Sweet.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, what do I gotta do? This is Bertie Velasquez with the band Condado, and you're listening to WKNC 88.1 FM Raleigh.
we spent our days, all crammed